gonna give it your best shot.
Whiskey, whiskey, you should never drink alone. Whiskey, whiskey, you should never drink again. You talk into your mic, acting like you have the right, but no one cares what the hell you're saying. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Whiskey Ramblings. I'm your host, Mr. Sean, and today we are tipping our hat and taking a drink in honor of my good buddy, Roro. We took him to the vet yesterday at the time of recording, and while he's not given a fully clean bill of health, they are optimistic. He had hurt his eye, his other eye, not the one he'd hurt before, and while there is still a slight infection, the doctor is optimistic that another 2 weeks of treatment on some new antibiotics will clear that right up, and it's definitely clear that he has use of the eye and can see, and he does not appear to be in any pain. So, today we are celebrating Roro's more or less clean bill of health with a Whiskey Ramblings video. How this works is I do not have a script. I simply pick a topic, I start talking about it, I'm drinking while I do it, and we see just if I can maintain a clear and coherent train of thought while I do it. And today I wanted to talk to you all about why everyone is turning on Disney all of a sudden. And now I know what you're going to say. Well, obviously, Mr. Sean, it's because Disney's gone woke. I hate that term. What does woke even mean? Well, I can tell you right now that the problem with Disney is not its wokeness, if it even is, though my mother would disagree. You want to see my mother go on a rant, you just mention woke Disney to her and you'll get like a good 20-30 minutes of that. But I'm here to tell you there's a reason you're mad at Disney, and it's not that Disney has gone woke. I won't say that it has nothing to do with that, because Disney being quote-unquote woke is a symptom of the actual problem, not the cause. Because honestly, there's nothing wrong with being woke. There's nothing wrong with telling a quote-unquote woke story. There's nothing wrong with being quote-unquote woke in, by bringing representation into your movies. I mean, I was never going to watch a film if it was pitched to me as White Guy McWhite-Guyerson does white guy stuff in a white man's world this summer from Paramount and Touchstone Pictures. White Guy the White Guy, rated PG-13. That wasn't gonna, I wouldn't be inspired to see that movie any more than I would be inspired to see a film that was just like Inclusion the movie. A story quote-unquote being woke and including like a multi-ethnic group of people or whatnot. I mean, none of that, the wokeness or unwokeness of a film is never what's going to inspire me to watch it. It's always going to be, does the film look entertaining? Does it look well made? Does it look like effort was put into its creation, or was it just slapped together as a cash grab? In my opinion, some of the best movies are actually kind of terrible, but when you watch them, you can see that the filmmakers put effort into their creation. And while the end result was not great, you still understand that these people didn't set out to just make a cheap, dumb movie for cash. They wanted to tell you a story, and while they may not have done the best job, I commend their effort and I can enjoy the ride that, was like, wow, they really were trying to do something here. A film I watched recently starring Sam Elliott, one of the greatest actors of our time. I thought it was going to be the dumbest movie I'd ever seen, but I wanted to watch it. I actually got together with my family, we watched it for my birthday. It's called The Man Who Killed Hitler and Then the Bigfoot, and it's about a man who back in World War II assassinated Adolf Hitler and then, kind of retired to a quiet life of just being like a kind of sad old man in the 70s until the government shows up and tells him, hey, we need you to kill Bigfoot. I was expecting this to just be some dumb action movie where an old man comes out of retirement to go fight Bigfoot. But in fact, it was a heartfelt drama about a man whose life just didn't turn out the way he thought it would. I mean, there is a scene where he's talking to the agents from the U.S. and from Canada, and just a little bit of context. I mean, he's an old man. His fiance died while he was away in the war, so he never married. He's just kind of lived a life that he's not necessarily happy about. And the agent brings up his grandfather telling him stories about the man who killed Hitler, and he just goes into a better monologue than it has any right to be in this movie about how immediately after he did that, the Germans covered it up, got an imposter to play, the Fuhrer, and that what he did didn't make a goddamn bit of difference. And I mean, it is such a powerful and emotional monologue that it's like, wow. This movie was a labor of love. Like, they actually took a dumb concept, and just in case you're wondering, him fighting the Bigfoot is maybe 15 minutes of the entire movie. Most of the film is drama, and it's a great drama. But it's like, cool, people took what could have just been a dumb movie and made it something great. Why? How? Effort. Effort is the key. And the problem you have with Disney now, and that extends to, like, you wanting to just ignore the Marvel franchise, is Disney has stopped putting effort into their films while other studios have been putting more effort into their films. Disney has decided they are just going to rest on their laurels and go, hey, we can put out any piece of crap and slap the Disney or MCU label on it, and you will eat it up like the blind consumers you are. And we will hide that we're doing this by, becoming quote-unquote woke. We're going to make terrible movies, but they're going to feature a multicultural, diverse, and inclusive cast, but we're not going to develop those characters, and you're going to praise us for doing it, even though we pretty much just reskinned the generic background characters of any other Disney movie from the past 20 years. But the sad part is that they haven't done it entirely. There's still elements of Disney that are putting in the effort, which only makes the times when they don't just more glaring. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the MCU, and then I'm going to compare two Disney films, one where they put in effort and were still quote-unquote woke and the film is great, and one where they didn't. And they try to just rest on the wokeness, so to speak, and the fact that they're Disney and why it sucks. But no, we'll start with the MCU. When the MCU first came out, we had things like Iron Man, Captain America, maybe the Hulk, meh. But like these films in the leading up to Endgame, and then, so basically everything through Infinity War and then Endgame, massive amount of effort. Like they did so much to try and make you love absolutely every aspect of the MCU. They made you want to know more about this world. They made you want to see the next thing. They made you crave it. They made you go, wow, I can't wait until, this next installment comes and I get more of the puzzle to see the whole that is the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And then after Endgame, yeah, there was still some like really good effort put into things like Falcon Winter Soldier. I will say the third Ant-Man film and the Guardians films are still great, but they started going, okay, well, now that all the big names have kind of like their stories have kind of ended, now we're going to start telling the minor stories. And to an extent, that was a great idea. I love obscure characters, but they didn't. As it went on, you could see less and less effort being put into it. Now, I know you probably think I'm going to shit talk She-Hulk, and I'm not. I actually really enjoyed She-Hulk. I think that anyone who doesn't really understand the kind of history of the character and how like fourth wall breaking and meta she was. And ultimately, I thought She-Hulk was done well. I thought it was a good, way to bring to the screen a unique character in Marvel that honestly gets overshadowed by her cousin a lot. But on the aspect of female characters in Marvel, I will say that I thought they handled Ms. Marvel poorly. Not so much that it was a bad show. The show itself, the show part was a little bit slow, but it was fun. And then in the film The Marvels, that's really, and again, I know you probably think I'm going to say, oh, Brie Larson. No, take Brie Larson out of it. I have no problem with her. I know that her character seems a bit underdeveloped, but that's not really a problem for me. Ms. Captain Marvel's never been a huge one for me. So like, again, just I want to see her punch stuff. That's really all I care about. But when I was watching The Marvels, my favorite part of that movie, in fact, the only part of that movie I really cared about was the parts where Kamala's family and Nick Fury are interacting. And honestly, it's a superhero movie. I should care about the action, but all I cared about was a delightful Pakistani family, slightly annoying Samuel L. Jackson. Like, you could title that, you could just cut those pieces, put it into a short film, and title it A Delightful Pakistani Family Slightly Annoys Samuel L. Jackson, and I would watch it. I would watch it on repeat. That was the best parts of the movie. But at the end of the day, it's supposed to be a superhero movie. And when you can't make the superhero parts interesting, hey, I don't care what he says. I just like it when he punches people. How do you make the costume fit so close to the chest deal? Like Bart Simpson said to Alan Moore, you're doing something wrong. Not that superhero movies can't have plot elements like that. In fact, they should, but I should also be caring about the action in what is essentially an action film. Another aspect of laziness is that the Disney Plus app, at least on Roku, which is where a lot of people watch the Disney Plus app in this day and age, has a real issue with the subtitles glitching out, and yet Disney, without working with Roku to fix this problem, released Echo, a show that requires, unless you are fluent in ASL, that you have subtitles to see what's being said, as a lot of that show is sign language. And if every other episode the subtitles bug out and I have to reset my whole thing to keep watching, well, I'm going to lose interest. And again, that's just kind of a lazy thing to do, and ultimately losing out on what could be some very good storytelling, but at the end of the day, they just act like we're going to keep coming back to it because it's Marvel. And Disney as a whole had become complacent. Their new CEO is trying to make the Disney parks more affordable, and that was another thing that Disney just kept upping their prices, going, people will pay whatever we tell them to because we're Disney, without making the park experience worthwhile. Again, lazy. They're just like, we're Disney, we can rest on our laurels, slap the Disney brand on anything, and people will buy it because they will mindlessly buy from Disney. And people are starting to not do that. The economy is not great, money is tight, people need to make decisions. And if one of those decisions is, hey, do I keep blindly supporting something that is bringing out less and less quality material? Am I going to still spend my money on it? And the answer is, of course, no. My father always tells me people talk with their money, and that is what people are saying to Disney now. But now we're going to talk about two films. One is amazing. One, I couldn't even watch the whole thing. I lost interest. And the only real difference in the plan for the two of them is one had effort and one just had the Disney brand. And these films are Turning Red and Wish. Now, because Turning Red is the good film, we're going to talk about it last. We're going to talk about Wish first. And please understand, this is the part of Wish that I watched, which I want to say, it was at least a little over 30 minutes into the film, and I can't do this anymore. Even my wife was like, she'd lost total interest in the film. We tried. We really tried. We were watching on Disney Plus. It wasn't costing us anything. I would have been mad if I had paid money to see this film in the theaters. Meanwhile, Turning Red, while it did briefly come out, we did not get a chance to see it. I'm mad that I didn't get a chance to spend money to see this film in the theaters, because I feel like it would have been fun to see in the theater. It was great on Disney Plus, where it was initially released due to COVID, but I would have loved to have seen it in the theater, and they do re-release it in the theaters on occasion, so maybe me and my wife will get that chance at some point. So Wish. Wish is about a story about now the traditional Disney heroine, which a lot of people criticize. I don't have a problem with this. They introduce the female protagonist as an quote unquote adorkable character, But you know what? There's a lot of people in the world, especially Disney's target audiences of like young preteen and teen girls who would be considered, quote unquote, adorkable, socially awkward, enthusiastic. It's great to see that kind of a personality on the screen as opposed to just, someone who's calm, cool, collected, popular, because that's just not, that's not reality. And while we use films as a way to escape from reality, ultimately we do like to see ourselves in the characters we root for. So the problem isn't so much that Disney is including, an adorkable female protagonist, it's that that's their entire personality. I mean, to a certain extent, yeah, they'll have a little bit of growth, but it's just, hey, I'm adorkable, I love everything about what's going on, oh, but actually I'm insecure about things, the world isn't quite as bright as I thought it was, and then now here comes the plot and the problem. It's like, okay, so you've reused this thing quite a bit, you can make a different way for an adorkable character to interact with the world. Basically, this girl lives in a kingdom where the king is able to grant wishes, but the kingdom is peaceful. Everybody that comes to the kingdom gives the king their greatest wish. He takes that from them, essentially making them forget about it, and then keeps them stored in his castle, and every so often he will grant someone's wish. But you start to see the cracks pretty early on, like one of their friends who just gave his wish to the king, now since giving him the wish to keep track of, apparently that was the friend's true motivation, and he's really boring now. And she learns that, the king and the way that he chooses to grant wishes is flawed, and so her view of this kingdom is more or less shattered. Her grandfather's wish will never be granted, her mom's never will, because she dares question the king, and so she makes some kind of wish that brings a wishing star down to earth, which is, the king knows something's going on, and he's determined to find out what it is. That's about to where I got to in the film before I just couldn't watch anymore. Basically, this is just Encanto with wishes instead of superpowers. But so, there's several things wrong with the way they make this movie, in my opinion. First of all, the animation quality is terrible compared to even other recent Disney films. This looks like some direct-to-DVD DreamWorks catastrophe. This looks like the film that they rebrand to be a Disney knockoff in the red box, rather than the animation quality that we have all come to expect from Disney. Disney, pioneers of animation. And lesser known, I was talking the other day, Disney is a pioneer not only in animation, but also in animatronics, but mostly they're known for animation, and this was just not up to snuff. Again, the plot is more or less just the generic reskinned Disney adorkable female character plot that we've seen so often, with just a slightly different situation. It doesn't feel original, it doesn't feel like a new story, it feels like it's just something that they, change a few details here and there, and boom, slap the Disney D on it, and we are, or the Disney D, or as I would like to call it, the Disney dick stamp, and go, hey, people will buy this. But you know what? No, we won't. And the sad thing is that it's, before we even get into the nitty gritty of what I've seen of the film, you just the amount of wish merch they put out so far in advance of this movie being released, they really thought that a cute little star, they were definitely in the film, the parts I saw, they were going for the cuteness factor. They thought that alone, a talking goat, a little cute little wishing star, and an adorkable female protagonist, and then a handsome king voiced by Chris Pine. Love Chris Pine, by the way, but I feel like he was the only thing keeping me invested as long as I was, just because, again, Chris Pine is a phenomenal actor, but no. But yeah, even a goat voiced by Alan Tudyk using his Clayface from Harley Quinn voice couldn't keep me watching this film. But the amount of merchandise they put out on very little information of this film made them think that this was going to be enough to bring the masses in, yet I don't see it flying off the shelves, so joke's on them. But I keep bringing up the word woke, and as much as I hate it, there is an element in this film where it feels like Disney was trying to go, hey, look at our wokeness, and that's going to serve in place of us actually developing a plot, developing characters, and that is the main character's cast of friends who are multicultural, multicultural, multiracial, there is a representation of disability, of, I guess you'd call a short guy with short guy syndrome. Okay, there's also a character that's clearly based on Dopey from the Seven Dwarfs, and it felt like this was kind of a nod to the Seven Dwarfs movie that Disney didn't get to make because they weren't using actual dwarves, and that pissed us off because you can't just say dwarves and then not use. You can't. It's not Snow White and the seven random people. But no, so it just and so that was like, okay, cool. There's nothing wrong with this. There's nothing wrong with her best friend being a disabled Asian girl who's a bit on the plus size. That's fine. The thing is, and I need to word this carefully, because often you'd hear people say, okay, make there be a reason for this character to be the way they are, and that's not right. Nobody needs a reason to be Asian plus sized and disabled. Like, you can have you can fill any role with that character, and that's perfectly fine. It doesn't need to be specific to the plot that they have all these things in order for their inclusion to make sense. But what needs to happen is when you put any character, especially one where you're like, okay, this character has these forms of representation, you need to give that character specifically, not their traits or whatever, but that character, that person, a reason to be in the film. You can't, and they need to be like, there needs to be development. You can't just take, hey, generic background character number 2, we're going to make you inclusive now, because that's not inclusion. That's literally just a skin swap. And that's not to say that every person of color, every person of other ablement, everything needs to be a main pivotal character. I'm just saying that if that's one of the selling points you're going to try for this movie, is go, look at how inclusive we've made the characters. Well, then you need to actually have them be characters and not just, set props. If they don't really do much, if they're very generic, if this is the best friend character, and from maybe they develop her further on, but I don't know. It just, again, you have a certain amount of time to capture your audience, and all I could see was cash grab, cash grab, cash grab. We did this, we put no effort in, the animation's not great, we have a bunch of bland characters that we've reskinned to look inclusive, and we have a now generic protagonist that really doesn't captivate you. And so all of these things are why I think, Wish is ultimately the sign of what Disney is doing wrong, is that they're just not putting effort in anymore. I would love them to tell a story of inclusion and acceptance. I mean, look at Beauty and the Beast. People that are different aren't awful. Sometimes the traditional, like what we think we're supposed to be attracted to, like Gaston, not all that attractive on the inside. Like, Disney has always been good in the past about showing that differences are what make us unique and great, not what should pull us apart. But now they're just lazy. It's not about wokeness, it's about effort, and they need to be putting effort into their films or they're going to lose their audience. And I would hate to see that, because again, there are so many recent properties of the past several years that I show that Disney still has effort in them. I'm not going to talk about it much today, but DuckTales, the revamp, wonderful series, brought what was a silly show for silly young children into the modern era with complex themes and inclusion and ideas, and it was so well done. I rewatch it all the time, but I want that same level of effort in Disney's films, and we're going to talk about one that kind of went under the radar, but it has all that. And so now we're going to talk about when Disney does put effort into their movies, like they did with Turning Red. Like Wish, but of course, Turning Red came out first. Turning Red is the story of an adorable young girl coming to terms with the world around her. A Canadian of Chinese descent, 13-year-old Maylin Mei Lee lives with her parents, Ming and Jin, and helps take care of their family's temple dedicated to her maternal ancestor, Sun Yi, who is the guardian of red pandas. This girl, who is a character that so many could relate to at that age, wants to be confident, wants to, be popular, wants to make her parents proud, wants to do well in school, and at the same time is also dealing with all the changing hormones that you are at that age, starting to like boys, and all of this emotion and hormone and everything activates her family's gift or curse, the way you see it. With Turning Red, they turn into a giant anthropomorphic red panda. And while yes, this is very much in many ways, and the film even addresses this, kind of what's the word? A stand-in for the idea of, beginning puberty, menstruation, all that, even the name Turning Red. This is the kind of film that does show inclusion. It talks about topics that a lot of films, especially Disney and for kids, don't address. And also, like, the film managed to be inclusive in a way that just felt natural. The main character is a Chinese Canadian, so that's, a little different than a lot of things we see. Not only the Chinese representation, but also Canadian. Most Disney films take place either in a far-off kingdom or in America, so that was different. Canada itself has a very diverse population, so of course her main band of friends all had different ethnic backgrounds. They all had different personalities. They were all well developed, even if they were side characters. So it didn't feel like, hey, look at all this inclusion and then we're never going to address it again. It just felt like they made 4 unique, distinct, inclusive friend characters for Meilin, and that you didn't even notice it because they did it so well. Also, a big thing in these Disney films has always been the familial relations, whether it's Ariel fighting with King Triton, her dad in Little Mermaid, or what the lengths Belle will go to save her father in Beauty and the Beast, or Mulan for her own father in Mulan. I mean, and so you have this kind of caring yet domineering mother who just wants the best for her daughter, and then you have the little bit more submissive but always supportive father who doesn't say much in the film, but I mean, everybody should have a dad like this guy. And overall, the film's great message is that in life, you are going to go through changes. Things are going to happen, and your experience is not going to be like the experience of those necessarily around you or before you. In the tradition of the family, they always seal away this power to become the red panda because it can lead to, some emotional instability. So they're denying that to themselves. And again, I still can't think of the word, but like a stand-in for like womanhood and all that, and trying to seal it away to be calm, reserved, collected. And in the end, Meilin decides to embrace hers, which is something no woman in her family has done before. I can't really, the phrase "my panda, my choice" comes up a lot, and I cannot believe that did not become a rallying cry when certain parts here in the United States have tried to limit women's autonomy over their own bodies. And telling this coming of age story about all the things one goes through at that age and in society, and using the idea of turning into a giant red panda as a way to encapsulate it all, it works so perfectly. And if anything, films like Turning Red just make films like Wish even worse, because it's clear that Disney Studios still has it in them to tell an amazing story, to do it right, to make it entertaining, to make it inclusive if that's what they want to do, all in all, and just give us the high quality, effort-filled films that are labors of love to their creators that we have been enjoying for over 50 years. But they don't want to do that anymore, and it shows. And so the wokeness isn't the problem. It's the fact that Disney now thinks that they've had a few really good films where one of the big selling points was inclusion, was quote-unquote wokeness, that now that can be used in place of effort, and it can't. Ultimately, guys, the reason you are starting to fall away from your love of Disney isn't because Disney's gone woke. Disney has always been woke. It's always been about people, defying societal conventions and living their own life and being their truest selves, but it was done with effort. And without the effort, it might as well be a direct-to-DVD DreamWorks pick. So before the Disney D becomes a Disney dick stamp, they really need to get to work on bringing back the magic, so to speak. That is why we all fell in love with Disney in our childhoods in the first place. Be woke. It's fine. I don't care. I will watch a woke film. I will watch a film that is not woke. But what I demand my films have is quality and effort. And that really is the problem with Disney. I hope you enjoyed this video, guys. It is a member exclusive, so I hope that enough of you were enticed to maybe even join just the $1 tier in order to see this video. J-Dog, I know you're probably watching as a Disney adult. I would love to know what you think about my opinion here. But guys, until next time, I'm Mr. Sean. This is Chimera Miniatures, and I sincerely hope that you alpha great day and an even beta tomorrow. But bye, guys. I gotta go give Roro his medicine.